In the early morning of August 21st, 1911, the most famous painting in the world vanished without a trace. No alarms, no witnesses, just an empty wall in the Louvre Museum. This is the unbelievable true story of how one man stole the Mona Lisa and how that theft transformed her from just another Renaissance portrait into the most iconic piece of art in human history. Let's go back to Paris over a century ago. At the time, the Mona Lisa was not the global superstar she is today. Yes, she was painted by Leonardo da Vinci. Yes, she had a mysterious smile. But in 1911, she was just one of many valuable paintings hanging on the walls of the Louvre. She wasn't even the most visited. The Louvre itself was massive and poorly guarded. Security was minimal. The Mona Lisa was protected by just 4 iron hooks, a wooden frame, and a thin pane of glass. And that's exactly how a man named Vincenzo Peruggia was able to pull off one of the greatest art heists in history. Vincenzo was an Italian handyman and former Louvre employee. He had once helped install protective glass over the museum's paintings. He knew the layout, he knew the routines, and he had a plan. On that fateful Monday morning, the Louvre was closed to the public. Peruggia arrived early, wearing a white smock like the museum staff. It was common for maintenance workers to be there even when the museum was shut. He made his way through the halls until he reached the Salon Care, the room where the Mona Lisa hung. There, he simply lifted the painting off the wall, carried it to a nearby staircase, and removed the frame and glass. Then, he hid the canvas under his smock, walked out of the museum, and disappeared into the streets of Paris. It wasn't until the next day that anyone noticed she was gone. At first, the museum thought the painting had been taken for routine photography or cleaning. But soon, the truth set in. The Mona Lisa had been stolen. Panic followed. The Louvre closed for a full week. Thousands of people came, not to see the art, but to stare at the empty space where the Mona Lisa once hung. The theft made international headlines. Newspapers across Europe and America reported the disappearance. Suddenly, the entire world was obsessed with a painting they had barely cared about the week before. French police launched a massive investigation. They questioned employees, former workers, and even artists. One of the people questioned was none other than Pablo Picasso. Yes, that Picasso. He was briefly suspected due to his connection to avant-garde circles and a previous art theft case. But he was innocent. Weeks passed, then months. No trace of the painting. No credible leads. It was as if the Mona Lisa had vanished from the face of the earth. Meanwhile, Peruggia was hiding the painting in a trunk in his tiny Paris apartment. For over 2 years, he kept it there, wrapped in a white cloth. He had convinced himself that he was a patriot, that the Mona Lisa had been stolen by Napoleon from Italy, that it was his duty to return her to her rightful home. But there was just one problem. The Mona Lisa had not been stolen by Napoleon. She had been legally acquired in the 16th century, long before Napoleon was even born. In late 1913, Peruggia finally made his move. He contacted an art dealer in Florence, claiming he had the real Mona Lisa and wanted to return it to Italy. He used a fake name, Leonardo Vincenzo, and offered to donate the painting to a museum. At first, the dealer was skeptical. There had been so many fakes and hoaxes over the years. But when he saw the painting in person, he knew it was real. Quietly, the dealer alerted the police. They arrested Peruggia on the spot, and the Mona Lisa was taken into custody. 2 years after her disappearance, the Mona Lisa was finally home, or rather, back in French custody. She was displayed briefly in Italy, where crowds gathered to see the recovered treasure. Then she was returned to the Louvre, where her fame had grown tenfold during her absence. Ironically, the theft is what turned the Mona Lisa into a global icon. Before the heist, she was admired mostly by artists and historians. After the heist, she was a worldwide sensation. Her face was on the front page of every newspaper. Her story was told in every cafe, every school, every gallery. People were fascinated by the mystery. Who was she? Why did she smile that way? And how had one man pulled off such a daring crime? Perugia was eventually tried and sentenced to just over a year in prison. He served only 7 months. To this day, some see him as a criminal. Others see him as a misguided patriot. But one thing is certain. He changed art history forever. Today, the Mona Lisa hangs behind bulletproof glass in a climate-controlled case, watched by guards and cameras 24/7. Millions of visitors come from all over the world to catch a glimpse of her smile. And yet, few realize that it was her absence, not her presence, that made her a legend. The Mona Lisa heist wasn't just a theft. It was a moment that shaped culture, history, and the value we place on art. One man, one painting, one unforgettable crime, and the most famous smile in the world.